Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar on management of variation orders. My name is Yvette Chimone. I'm a junior technical consultant here at the CCS office in Centurion, a city in the Gauteng province of South Africa. It is my pleasure to present this webinar to you. Today, I'll be showing you how to manage your variation orders using Candy. We will commence with the basics in order to ensure that everyone is of a fairly similar level of understanding as we go through to some of the more advanced functionality. Due to the large number of people logged into this webinar, we will not be able to answer any questions during the webinar. However, please submit your questions during the session with the provided function on the screen. At the end of the webinar, we will collate all these questions and send the answers to everybody that registered for this webinar via email. Please note that the webinar will be recorded and you will receive a link to download it. There is a webinar once a month on various Candy topics, and should you not be able to attend the webinar at the given time frame, then please still register for the webinar, as this will entitle you to receive a recorded copy of the webinar. Let's get started. What we'll be covering in this webinar: we'll first look at what is a variation order. Then we'll go to look at steps to creating variation orders in Candy. We'll then look at financial analysis of variation orders. We'll also look at customization of variation order statuses. We'll then look at variation order reports to just wrap up the whole topic. What is a variation order? A variation order is work that is an alteration to the scope of works in a construction contract that comes in the form of an addition, substitution, or omission from the original scope of works of a contract. This can be otherwise known as a change order, a contract change note, a variation instruction, site instruction, or an engineer's instruction. We have looked at what is a variation order. Now we're going to look at the steps that we should take to create these variation orders in Candy. Step 1 will be to add the bill items in Candy. Step 2 will be to price these bill items in Candy. Step 3 will be to define the variation order code. And then step 4 will be to allocate that variation order code to the bill items that belong to the variation orders. After which we then set the variation order status, and that'll be our step 5. Let's go into Candy and see how this is done. Note, this is a post-tender functionality, hence we will find the relevant document under the Valuations tab. And we navigate to the Document Manager. This is where we would find the document 3.1, Variation Order Pricing. We're going to open that document, and as you can see, it's a valuation document, but it now has a column for variation order code and a column for variation approval. Variation orders can be entered between existing bill items or entered on a new page of the bill. The practical method in this case would be to add and price all VOs in a new page of a bill and use heading levels to group these VOs. We're going to create a new page by going to the bottom of the document, go to Page, New Page, green tick to confirm that selection, and we now have a new page for our variation orders. Now, making use of the existing heading level structure, we will start with the level heading 2. And that will be our main heading for variation orders. We then make another heading level 3, and this will be for all the items that fall under the variation order number 1. So now we can start entering the bill items that belong to the variation order 1. And for this case, we have our first item, which is clear site north boundary. Since we're past the bidding stage, we will not be using a bill quantity for this item, but we'll be using a final quantity, and the unit of measure in this case will be square meters, and the quantity for this item will be 1,000 square meters. We can then go ahead and price this VO item, and since we've priced a similar item in this bill before, we can go and use existing price codes within this job to price the VO items, and this speeds up the pricing process instead of going to create a new price code. Double click in the price code column, and we're going to find the clear site item, site clearance, green tick to confirm that. And now we have selected the price code E113. And if we hover over that price code, there's a red indicator block indicating that it has been used on multiple bill items in this bill. If a different rate is required, then a different price code would need to be used. The VO items can be priced using worksheets. That means the resource allowable that is built up from pricing the VO items will add onto the existing current resource allowable for our project. The bill item clear site north boundary will also adopt the selling and net rate for this price code. Should we go and open document 1.3, valuation bill with codes and factors, you also see that the same variation order code, by just using the same price code, we have adopted the task code that is linked to that price code. The task code is allocated to the price code. Therefore, by allocating it to the same price code, this new bill item will adopt that task code. Let's look at defining a VO code. A VO code will allow us to now identify that bill item that we have created as a variation order item. And to define a VO code, we would need the following items. We would need a code for it, we would need a description, we would need a date associated with the VO, and then we would also need a hyperlink. And this will allow us to attach external documents that are on our PC or on a common data folder like OneDrive. We're going to exit these documents, and like any other code that you define in Candy, we're going to navigate to the blue hammer, definitions and settings, and go to item 3.2 VO codes. And under there, that's where we're going to define our VO code for the VO1 item. We're going to define the VO1. And the description for this will be variation order number 1. The date will be when you created the item, and the hyperlink we can access by clicking on the hyperlink column and accessing the add an external hyperlink option. So we select that option, and we'll be then able to attach a hyperlink that is linked to that variation order. Of description, you cannot attach a hyperlink without adding a description. So the first thing that you'll need to do is put in a description. What hyperlink are we attaching here? This will be our new drawing. for VO1. And once the description is in place, we can then browse our PC or our OneDrive to find the document that we need to attach. In this case, my drawing sits in my OneDrive. So I'm going to access my OneDrive and open my project drawings file, and I'm going to access my drawing that I'm going to attach for my hyperlink. So by clicking open, it will attach it as a hyperlink, and I'll confirm that by green ticking. Once that is done, we can then click OK, and then we can open our document again for variation order pricing. So now this clear side not boundary item is like any other bill item until we identify that it's a variation order item. And how we do that is going into the VO code column, double clicking and selecting the variation order code. Once the VO code has been defined, the status will be set default as unapproved, and only once the quantity and the rate for that VO item has been approved do we then come and change that approval status to approved. And in this case, it's a matter of just double clicking in the cell and changing the approval status to approved. And you confirm that selection by green ticking. We have looked at the steps to creating the variation orders in Candy. And now we're going to look at the financial analysis of that one VO item that we have added. The first step will be to open our document manager and accessing document item 3.2 variation order with VOQ allocations. And we're going to just refresh the VO details so that it pulls through the relevant detail for that VO. So now, by just opening this document, we can see that for VO1, we have an approved total of 3,978, and the final total for the collective VO is 3,978, and that lies on page 7 and is item A, and it's been approved. If we scroll down, you can also see the description for that item as clear side not boundary. Should you want to open the VO bill document for this VO1 item, you can go to the bottom of the document, VO bill document, open that, and it will give you the VO bill document for VO1. Now we're going to navigate to document 3.3. That will give us a total financial summary of our bill. So variation order 1 will be just as 3,978 as we entered in our bill. And now it gives you a whole detail of the valuation amounts. So that will be the remaining, actual to date, and your claimed selling amount remaining. Then we can also go open document 3.4, variation order approval status summary, and that will give you a detailed breakdown of all the approved and unapproved VOs. So once that's done, once we're done with financial analysis of variation orders, we're now going to look at customization of the variation order status. So in a case that now we have a second variation order or a third variation order, what's going to happen now is we're going to follow the steps as we discussed previously, where first we need to add our bill items. Second, we need to price those variation order items. Third, we need to define the variation code. Fourth, we need to allocate the variation order code. And fifth, in this case, it's going to be a bit different. We're going to set a customized variation order status. So going back into Candy, we're going to open our variation order pricing document. And what I have here is an Excel document that has my variation order items for VO2 and VO3. Following the principles of attaching from Excel, I'm just going to do a copy from Excel, right click, copy, go back into Candy, right click and paste. And now I'm just going to identify the relevant columns that I'm attaching from Excel into Candy. So the first column will be my item number, followed by my description, unit, and instead of bill quantity for this item, we're going to set it as final quantity. Note, if you set it as a bill quantity, it will not pull through to record for your reports later for your financial analysis. So in this case, we're using the final quantity. Once that's done, we can continue by confirming that, and we're adding it just above the cursor position. And it just confirms, this is a confidence check to confirm the total of quantity that you have brought through from Excel. Once that's confirmed, we can close it. And now you see we have variation order 2 items and variation order 3 items, all with quantities and all with units, but they're not structured according to our existing heading level structure. So we're going to structure this heading level, and this item here, variation order 2, like the previous item, will fall in as a level heading 3, that will be a level heading 4, that will be also another level heading 4, that will be a level heading 4, and that to also be another level heading 3 and another heading level 4. Okay, so once that's done, step 2, if we remember correctly, we're going to need to price our bill items. And instead of now going into each cell and double clicking to get a price code and scrolling through a whole list of price codes, I have a simpler way that will allow us to actually price our items faster and a bit more different than we're used to pricing. So we're going to do what we call a description match, and this matches bill items in the bill, within the job, or to a master, and uses the price codes to price like description items. So we're going to navigate, because this is an estimating tool that we're using post-tender, we're going to navigate from the valuations tab into the estimating tab. And with this document open, we're going to go to bill prep, scroll down to bill description matching, and we are matching against the job. We're not matching against the master at the moment. We're only matching against the job. So we'll match against the job. And this document now, the bill description matching document, will now show us all the bill descriptions that are in the bill. And then should it match, should I click on match, it will now give us the matching descriptions on the right side of the bill. So I'm going to click on match. And now, just to make sure that the match is as accurate as possible, because imagine we have concrete in trenches as the description, and we have excavation in trenches as the description, and Candy will match the in trenches part to give us a price code. We might price these items a bit more inaccurately. So this, including the heading above the item, will ensure that we're pricing a concrete in trenches item instead of an excavation in trenches item. And also, to just make sure that we're also making an accurate selection, we smart match the units of measure. So once that's done, we can also make sure that trades are matching just to be on the safer side. Once those selections are selected, we can click OK. So you'll see now that the left side will have a matching description, on the right side a clear and strip side description. It has a price code that matches that other price code. But should we go to the very bottom of this document, you see now that our unpriced VO items do not have a price code on the left side and the right side item have a price code, which means the right side items are priced within our bill. So on the left side, we're going to do a shift select in the price code column, right click, copy source item price code, which is the price code on our right side, into the right side price code column. That actually ensures that we're pricing it from that side. And this stage is actually just making sure that you also just verify by yourself that, okay, I'm looking at C20 concrete and foundation on the left, and I'm also looking at C20 concrete on the right. So once that's confirmed, I can click copy source item price code to twins, and by doing that, I'm confirming that match and clicking yes, and my price codes are pulled through onto my unpriced VO items. Once that's done, I can close the bill description document, get into the variation order pricing document, and just by clicking it and activating it, I can actually see that my price code pulled through at the same time the rates for those items pulled through. And I've just priced all these items in a matter of seconds. Now, step 3 will be to define the variation order code. So we've got a variation order 2 and we have a variation order 3. We're going to go into our blue hammer, go define our variation order codes just like before. So we're going to have VO2, and we're going to use the shortcuts to copy the above description and control. And just edit the number at the end to number 2. Our next VO item will be VO3, and just like before, control A, change the number at the end. And these are just shortcuts that we use in Candy that can actually make your life a bit easier. So now remember when we attach the hyperlinks there for variation order 1, you can actually just, if you're attaching a number of hyperlinks, you can actually just go over the hyperlink, the paperclip, and click on that, and it will show you the list of the different hyperlinks that you have attached for that certain variation order. And to access it, you can easily access it. Hence, we're actually advising it is best practice in this case to attach from OneDrive or a server environment, which will ensure that should you save this document, this job, and send it to your colleague, if you're accessing the same data environment, you will be able to view that hyperlink. So once our variation order code is defined, in this case, we're not exiting, we're going to the item 3.3, which is our variation approval status. Note, before we only had an approval status and an unapproved status. So now what we're doing is we're saying instead of just reporting on what's approved and what's unapproved, we want to get more detail so that we're better tracking and managing our variation orders by giving the approval statuses a bit more information. So now in 3.3, we're going to now start defining the new approval statuses and say, okay, instead of just unapproved and approved, now we can say my VO has been submitted for approval. Hence, I'm reporting it as a pending VO. Also, hence, it's an unapproved VO item. Then we're going to go again and say, okay, now I can clearly report on all my approved items, which will be approved. And in this case, there's a downward arrow which you can choose an approved status for. Should it also be rejected, I can report on that as a rejected item. And that is why it's unapproved. In some situations, your rate can be approved, yet your quantity itself is pending approval. So in this case, we're going to put the heading for that section. The column heading is quantity pending, hence that's unapproved. It can be vice versa, where the quantity itself has been approved, yet the rate is pending approval. So the column heading for that will be a rate pending, hence it's unapproved. This is where you can actually go and set different variation approval statuses according to how you would want to report on them in your company or in your organization. So once that is set, I can now close my definitions and settings by clicking OK. Come back into this document. The same document, the approval status was there. It's only activated the moment we set our customized approval status. So it's not here at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to close this document and open it again so that it actually reads that we have, sorry, by navigating to the valuations document manager, we're going to open 3.1 variation order pricing, and now we have the status column for our variation orders. The first thing we're going to do is now allocate the VO code, right? In this case, that's VO item 2, and we're just going to put this out for all the VO2 items. And the VO3 item at the bottom will have a VO code 3, okay? And then now, they're marked as unapproved by default. We now need to set that status. And to access the status, we're also going to just do a double click in that status cell. And now, if we go into our status list, we can now set a status for each item. So the first item will be approved. Second item will be approved, and for just a financial analysis purpose, we're going to set either item as a rate approved, quantity pending, quantity approved, rate pending. That item also same quantity, rate approved, quantity pending. The other item, we're going to say formal rejected. And then reinforcement, we cannot do concrete without reinforcement, so that's an approved one. And then our variation order 3 item, our 1 brick wall and foundations, we're going to say that's rejected. Okay, so we have set the statuses. They've also set their approval status automatically from our settings. Once that's done, we can now go on and do a financial analysis. Like we did the financial analysis before, we can actually go open our document manager, access the various variation order documents to get our financial analysis. So we're going to open 3.2, get a variation order code, order listing with VOQ allocations, and they're grouped by VO code. So refresh that, and then you get the full detail to see, okay, all the variation orders by VO code, and all their approved totals, and all their unapproved totals, and the actual totals for the VOs. And on the far right side, you see the listings of all the items that fall under the variation order code. Should we scroll to the far side, you can now see the list of the bill descriptions, their status, and the approval status. So now, the nice thing is from this bill document, if I select VO1 and go to VO build document, I can access the VO build document for that certain variation order. If I want to go to VO2, I can go to VO at the bottom of the document and select for VO2, and it will give me all the VO item in a build document, VO2 items in a build document, and I can also navigate to VO3 and I can see all the VO3 items. So should I close that and go back to Document Manager and open the financial summary? Then that will give you a total now, a summed up total of all the approved VO items and all the unapproved VO items and the final totals, right? Just for this exercise's sake, we're going to put in some progress so that we're able to record and report on that progress. And how we're going to do that is by going to our normal valuation document, going to the very last end of the column where we're setting the actual percentage completed for the VO items. So we're going to set 100% and 50 on that, 50, 50, 50. Once that's done, we can now say, let's record, let's view our financial summary. Let's close all these documents by going to the Document Manager. You can go access document 3.3, which will give us a full-on financial summary of our variation order items. So now, because we have progressed these items, you can now see that the progress to date is 1,331 of the variation order 2 items. And what's remaining of the variation order 2 items is 2,054,855. You can also see what you claimed, what's current, and what's remaining. The same can be done on the variation order 3 items. They are unapproved. Hence, that's only under the remaining items, and we also didn't progress that. So if we close that and go open document 3.4, see the approval status, and then now you can see what's at completion to date and what's remaining of the variation orders, just in a different view as well. So close that. We're going to now access our reports. Our reports will also give us now our financial analysis on a document, on a report format, okay? So unlike our variation order documents, we do not find the variation order reports under the valuation report manager. They are not under the valuation report manager. We find the variation order reports under the reports menu, and they have their own reports manager for VOs. So select the VO reports manager, and then you can actually start opening the different variation order reports. And just like our documents and reports in Candy, you can actually customize all those reports to suit what you want to see or report on. So by opening the variation orders with BOQ allocations, I can preview that document, and I can now see my VOs by VO code, what's approved, what's unapproved, my final total, my items, and my item list on descriptions of the bill. Close that, open the financial summary, preview that, and you can see the approved, unapproved, final total, and the progress on each VO. Close that as well, and then see also the approval status, preview that, and then now you can report at completion to date remaining, and the heading columns that we added before, you can now see and report on those to see what's undefined, what's pending, what's approved, what's rejected. Now, because we can't see the other 2 columns that should be showing there, the quantity pending and rate pending one, we're going to go and customize this report, and we're going to change some of the settings so that we're able to see that we can just scale it to an A3 just so that we can actually just view. Either that, or we can also change the formatting to fit to page and click OK and preview that. Once we see that, we can actually zoom in to see now that we can be able to report on the undefined, what's pending, what's approved, what's rejected, what has a quantity pending and what has a rate pending, and the totals for each section by the year. So if we close that document, you can also access either VO document, which is your VO order bill by net. And if we close that, and those are the variation order reports that we looked at, the VO with bill allocations, VO financial summary, VO bill net. And that brings us to the end of the Candy webinar on management of variation orders. Thank you for your time, and I trust that you now have a greater insight on Candy's management of variation orders. Please remember to email your local CCS office if you want to know more about the management of variation orders. We'll keep you informed of the next webinar, and remember, if you're unable to join on the selected time, then please still register and you will receive the recording, which you can then watch in your own free time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Till the next webinar. Goodbye.